welcome back to the Jackson Neill Sports Podcast here on Thursday, June 28th, 2018. Thank you so much for tuning back in right here on SoundCloud, Stitcher, iTunes, and now YouTube. Keep in mind, if any of my videos on YouTube go over 10 minutes, check down in the description. There you will find a link to listen to the rest of the podcast on SoundCloud. So, let's jump right into it on this Thursday, where there's some big news coming out of the NBA. NBA free agency is really starting to heat up. We're going to see it officially open up in just a couple days, which leaves us to wonder where everyone is headed. And among the big names in this, we know LeBron James, Kevin Durant, I think, has a deal expiring. He's probably going to re-sign. There's a lot of big names that are bouncing around, it looks like, in this free agents class. And one of them is Paul George, where he is saying that he has informed the Oklahoma City Thunder that he will become an unrestricted free agent. And with this move, it opens up a lot for Paul George, because by doing this, he now can try to become what he said he would do last summer, and that was he intended to sign with the Los Angeles Lakers in this free agency. And we look at Kawhi Leonard already wanting to come here, and if the Lakers can pull off a trade for Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, get Paul George in free agency, now things start to get interesting, because I think that's a really good team. Now that we've already also heard speculation that maybe LeBron would come there, and while that's theoretically could happen, I don't see that happening with Leonard and George if they already come there, because it's already logjam, I guess, at the 3 position. Although LeBron can kind of play anywhere, it just feels too much like too much of a logjam going on there. But if the Los Angeles Lakers can land Paul George, does that make them, first of all, more of a contender for Kawhi Leonard? Because Kawhi Leonard already wants to go there, but the San Antonio Spurs, I'm not sure, they've been really hesitant to give him up. If they were to get Paul George, the Lakers would then have to give up somebody big to get up Leonard, because that's what that's what San Antonio wants, but also because they need to do that in order to free up some salary. And that's where things start to get interesting, is one, for Paul George being a free agent, do they have to give up? Do they have to get Kawhi Leonard before Paul George will sign? Because if that's the case, maybe Paul George just says, all right, this is taking too long with this whole LA and Kawhi thing. What if I go to Houston? I could see that happening. I mean, a big 3 in Houston of reigning MVP to be James Harden, Chris Paul, and Paul George. That's a solid team. Houston was so close to beating Golden State. And if you're Houston, you're looking at Paul George and you're saying, could that be the piece? Could that be the piece to push us over the edge? To push us to that next step where we're good enough to beat Golden State? Because let me tell you, they were very close. They almost beat them with this roster. If they played that series a couple more times, Houston would have won a couple more. Houston was a really, really good team this past year, and if they can have, you can count on James Harden to put in another season of what he just did. Especially with James Harden, Chris Paul, I'm not sure if he's slowing down too much just as of yet. If they can get that big 3, I think Houston could accelerate into the title favorite in the NBA, and that's where I'm looking at Paul George saying, wherever he goes, it's gonna be really, really interesting to see. Another team, Philadelphia 76ers. Does he go there? I look at the Philadelphia 76ers and I say, that would fit perfectly for Paul George. Because the Philadelphia 76ers are this team that are on the rise. They have talent. Look at Joel Embiid. Look at Ben Simmons. But they could kind of use a star. Where in the East, As of right now, LeBron's still on Cleveland. As of right now, he still is. And we don't know how that's gonna work, how it's gonna work out just yet, where he's gonna go. But let's just say he stays in Cleveland. Let's just assume that's what's gonna happen. So if he stays in Cleveland, that's a team where I'm not sure how strong they still are. Boston got pretty close to beating them. Philadelphia, now they couldn't really compete on Boston's level. But give me Ben Simmons in a second year. Give me another year of Joel Embiid. Hopefully Markelle Fultz can do something more. And then you add Paul George to that. Through a weak Eastern Conference, that's a really good team. That's a team that I think starts to accelerate themselves way more towards getting to the finals. Because if you have Paul George, you can go up against Cleveland and say, look, we don't have a player of LeBron's level, but we have a player to match up with him. And while Paul George is not as good as LeBron James, George is still a superstar caliber small forward that can pretty much play positionless basketball, something that LeBron James does very well. And while that's not the answer to beating LeBron, it certainly helps. It certainly gives you a lot better shot. So, if I'm Paul George, those are the three teams I'm really considering. I'm looking at, because we saw this Oklahoma City thing did not work this year. It had a chance, but it just did not work out. If I'm Paul George, I'm not going to Los Angeles unless Kawhi gets traded. And if it's taking too long, I'm looking at what Houston and Philadelphia have to offer. And I'm considering that. If LeBron moves out of the Eastern Conference, Paul George should absolutely go to Philly. As soon as possible, George should go to Philly. Because once LeBron leaves the East, if LeBron were to leave the Eastern Conference, the door to a title right there would be wide open. It'd be so open, it'd be so easy. Not necessarily easy because you still have the Boston Celtics, but a lot easier than the Western Conference. Because as of right now, in the Western Conference, the gatekeepers to a title are the Golden State Warriors. Can you get past Golden State? If you want to win a title coming out of the Western Conference, that's your question. If you want to win a title coming out of the Eastern Conference, your first question is, 1, can you get past Cleveland? That's to get to the finals. And 2, can you beat Golden State? So if I'm Paul George, if this whole trade thing with the Spurs and the Lakers is not working and you can't seem to get Kawhi to Los Angeles, and Houston's offering you money, and Philadelphia's offering you money, but then LeBron stays in Cleveland, I might have to go to Houston. But if LeBron jumps ships and goes to the Western Conference, take Philadelphia. Get that easy road to a finals appearance. That'll wrap it up for this edition of the Jackson Neill Sports Podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Remember, this as well as the Jackson Neill Music Podcast is updated 3 to 4 times a week right here on SoundCloud, Stitcher, and iTunes, and YouTube. Can't forget YouTube on that list. Also, check out the Anything Goes with Jackson Neill podcast. That's where I interview musicians. My latest episode where I interviewed Tala, that is up right now in the same feeds as this, so check that out. That's updated on Tuesdays, along with the radio show on 107.9 FM in Southern New Jersey from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. You can listen in live, WRMLradio.org, wherever you have an internet connection, to catch all the music, all the interviews, and all that good stuff. Follow me on social media, on Instagram and Twitter, at Jackson Neill 20, Neill, no spaces, no caps, at Jackson Neill 20 on Instagram and Twitter for additional content, snippets of interviews, extra stuff I do, all my links, all that great stuff. Thank you so much for listening. I'll see you all next time.